Imagine for a second that you're just walking down the street to grab your morning coffee.
Right, just a totally normal morning.
Exactly. You're thinking about your day, maybe checking your phone, and you step off the curb. And what you probably don't realize is that right beneath the asphalt, like literally just a few feet down, is an enormous 3rd century arena where gladiators used to fight.
Which is just wild to think about.
It really is. So hello and welcome to today's deep dive. It is so genuinely great to have you here with us. We are taking a massive stack of materials today, everything from archaeological archives and contemporary art journals to, highly secretive nightlife guides and local event calendars.
Yeah, a really diverse mix of sources this time.
For sure. And we are focusing all of it on one incredibly layered place, Sofia, Bulgaria.
And, the mission for this conversation is to basically shortcut your path to becoming a true Sofia insider. The goal is to move right past the standard tourist traps and, look at the actual fabric of the city.
Get past the usual postcard stuff.
Exactly, because when you synthesize all these different historical and cultural guides, a very clear picture emerges. You see a place defined by hidden layers, secret spaces, and honestly, a profound historical resilience.
Resilience is, I think that's the perfect lens for this. Sofia isn't a city that just hands you its identity on a silver platter. It demands a little effort from you.
Yeah, you really have to work for it.
You do. You have to know where to look.
Yeah.
And sometimes you literally have to look underground. So, okay, let's unpack this.
Let's do it.
To really understand the modern vibe of Sofia, we have to start by looking at the dirt under your shoes. The timeline of human settlement here doesn't just go back a few centuries, it goes back millennia.
Oh, absolutely. The remnants are just literally stacked on top of each other.
Right.
The geography of the Sofia Valley made it a prime settlement area right from, the dawn of human civilization, really. If we look at the excavation reports from the eastern part of the city, specifically the Slatina district archaeologists have uncovered Neolithic houses.
And these go all the way back to what, the 6th millennium BC?
Yeah, the 6th millennium BC. And we're not talking about crude, temporary shelters here.
Like not just a couple of sticks and a tarp.
No, not at all. We were talking about massive structures. Some of them are over 110 square meters.
Wait, really? That's bigger than my first apartment.
I know, right? It's incredible. And they were fully equipped with specialized domestic gear and fine earthenware. People were living highly organized lives here 8,000 years ago.
Which is just staggering when you really pause and think about it. And then you jump forward a few thousand years, the Romans take over, building that enormous 3rd century amphitheater I mentioned earlier.
Right, the one just hiding under the streets.
Yeah. The most incredible detail I found in these archaeological reports is that the amphitheater was only recently discovered right under the modern city center, just east of the ancient fortified wall.
It really changes how you look at a modern intersection.
Totally. It makes me think of Sofia as this giant, kind of like an architectural lasagna.
Oh, I like that.
Right? You slice vertically into the city, and you can see different centuries and empires compressed together, crust to crust.
An architectural lasagna is actually a highly accurate way to visualize urban development in this region. You have the Neolithic base, the Roman and Byzantine layers, the Ottoman period, and then 20th century architecture.
All just pressing down on one another.
Exactly. And because these layers are so physically compressed, you end up with unique physical intersections of history that you really can't find anywhere else.
Like right in the middle of town.
Yes. What's fascinating here is the city center, specifically an area known as the Quadrangle of Religious Tolerance.
Looking at the maps of this area really put the lasagna analogy into perspective for me. You have 4 major places of worship representing entirely different faiths, sitting just, literally meters apart from one another.
A very tight footprint.
Very tight. First, you have the Church of St. Petka, the Saddlers. It's an 11th century Orthodox church. But when you look at the photos, something is just kind of off about the proportions.
Yeah, the roof line is incredibly low.
Right, because the building is actually dug down into the ground. Half of it is subterranean.
That physical oddity is a direct result of the historical rules of the time. During the Ottoman period, there were strict building codes enforced regarding non-Muslim places of worship.
Right, they had to keep a low profile.
Literally. One of the primary rules was that an Orthodox church could not be taller than a soldier on horseback.
Wow. Talk about a specific zoning law.
Seriously. So The local builders got resourceful. If they couldn't build up into the sky, they just dug down into the earth. They essentially sank the church into the ground to create the necessary interior space while remaining completely unobtrusive from street level.
That is an amazing architectural survival tactic.
Yeah.
And then just a stone's throw from that half-buried church, you have the Banyabashi Mosque, which is the only active Muslim temple in Sofia today.
And it has some serious architectural pedigree.
Oh, totally. It was built in 1566 by Mimar Sinan. Now, for anyone who isn't a huge architecture buff, Sinan is basically the Michelangelo of the Ottoman Empire.
That's a perfect comparison.
He designed some of the most iconic, structurally complex domes in Istanbul. So having a mosque designed by him in Sofia is, well, it's a massive historical flex.
It is an incredible piece of engineering. Sinan was a master of structural load distribution. He figured out how to build these massive soaring domes without the benefit of modern machinery.
Just purely using math and geometry.
Exactly. Precise geometric calculations to flood the interiors with natural light. The mosque stands as a true monument to 16th century innovation.
And then right next door to that, completing another corner of the quadrangle, is the Sofia Synagogue.
Which is absolutely stunning.
It really is. It was built in the early 1900s and holds the title of the largest synagogue in the Balkans. But the detail that completely stopped me in my tracks when I was reading the source material was the chandelier inside.
Oh, the brass one. Yeah.
Yes. It is a massive brass fixture that weighs 2,200 kilograms. That is almost 2.5 tons. I literally spent a good 10 minutes just trying to understand the structural engineering required to hang a piece of brass the weight of an SUV from a domed ceiling.
Let alone keep it clean.
I know. Can you imagine dusting that thing?
The logistics of maintaining a structure like that are just staggering. And then rounding out the quadrangle, you have the Cathedral of St. Joseph, the largest Roman Catholic temple in Bulgaria.
So you have all four right there.
Right. And how this extreme physical proximity of different faiths perfectly reflects the city's very name is just brilliant. Sofia translates from Greek as God's great wisdom.
That's so fitting.
It really is. For centuries, Orthodox Christians, Muslims, Jews, and Catholics have coexisted in this incredibly tight urban space. They practiced their faiths openly and navigated the shifting political tides together. It is a literal physical manifestation of tolerance.
It definitely changes how you experience a city as a visitor. When you realize you're stepping over a buried Roman arena to look at a sunken 11th century church, a 16th century masterwork, and a 2-ton chandelier all in the exact same square, the environment feels incredibly dense.
It's already layered.
Yeah, dense and layered. But we can't just get stuck in ancient history, right? The more recent history of the 20th century has left behind its own strange infrastructure.
And it is currently fueling a massive boom in the contemporary art scene.
Exactly. This is where the cultural timeline of Sofia experiences a really fascinating disruption.
Right. To understand why the contemporary art scene looks the way it does today, we have to look at an economic and cultural phenomenon known as the export-import gap. Essentially, Bulgarian contemporary art experienced a forced pause.
Yeah, imagine if your entire culture's access to external art, pop culture, and global movements just froze for 30 years.
It's hard to even conceptualize today.
It is. Because of the strict, centralized state rules that dominated the mid to late 20th century, any art that deviated from the official, state-sanctioned aesthetic was subjected to heavy censorship.
Which meant the avant-garde, the experimental stuff, it just wasn't allowed to flourish publicly.
Right. So when the borders finally opened up and the political reality shifted, artists began traveling and studying abroad. And the local scene had to play this incredibly rapid, intense game of catch-up.
They were suddenly hit with decades of global artistic evolution all at once. And here is where the infrastructure problem comes in.
The lack of galleries.
Exactly. A city like Paris or London has centuries of established, pristine, white wall commercial galleries. Sofia didn't have that robust gallery infrastructure because there just hadn't been a market for it.
So they had to get creative.
Highly creative.
Yeah.
The returning artists and curators had to figure out where to put this sudden explosion of contemporary work. So they started eyeing the bizarre, abandoned industrial and recreational spaces left behind by the previous era.
Which gives us gallery locations that sound like they belong in a surrealist film, honestly. Take the nonprofit art space called Swimming Pool.
That one is iconic.
It is exactly what it sounds like. The gallery is located on a central rooftop inside an empty concrete outdoor swimming pool that was built in the 1930s.
And then there's the Plus 359 gallery.
Oh yeah, talk about that one.
It operates inside a preserved, ivy-covered water tower from the early 20th century. You walk in, and you literally have to climb up 5 floors of a narrow spiral staircase. You eventually stand inside the old water tank itself to view the exhibitions.
That sounds exhausting, but amazing.
Yeah.
And you can't overlook Topola Centrala. It was originally built as this massive utilitarian heating plant designed to service the National Palace of Culture.
Right, an entirely industrial space.
But now the heavy machinery has been cleared out and it's been transformed into a massive regional center for contemporary performing and visual arts.
Yeah.
They've completely reimagined these industrial scars into cultural hubs.
They really have.
Okay, but I have to play devil's advocate here for a second, because whenever I see things like this, my skeptical side flares up.
Fair enough. What's your take?
Are these art spaces actually exhibiting great culturally significant art? Or are people just flocking to them because it's cool to take a selfie in an empty rooftop pool? Like, is this an actual art movement, or is it just the ultimate Instagram aesthetic?
That's a highly valid skepticism, especially in the modern art world. But if we look at the underlying mechanics of these spaces, the venues are actually what force the art to be so compelling.
How so?
Well, when you lack standard, square, white rooms for 30 years, you are forced into site-specific creativity. If a curator gives you an exhibition space inside the curved, tiled deep end of a 1930s pool, you can't just hang a square canvas on a flat wall.
Or gravity won't even let you do that.
Exactly. The environment demands that you interact with the architecture, the history of the water tower, the sheer industrial scale of the heating plant. The space dictates a completely different kind of installation and performance that you simply cannot achieve in a traditional gallery.
Ah, I see. That makes total sense. The restriction breeds the innovation.
Exactly.
And reading about the recent launch of the Sofia Art Fair, or SF, it feels like this resourceful scene is really maturing. They are bringing in established galleries from France, the Netherlands, Georgia, and all over Europe.
The Sofia Art Fair represents the next logical step in their cultural evolution. By instituting a curated series of panels and networking events alongside the physical exhibitions, it is actively building the long-term structural framework for the art market that the city has been missing.
It's formalizing it.
Right. It's aggressively closing that 30-year export-import gap and plugging local Bulgarian artists directly into the broader European conversation.
So the high art is happening up on rooftops and inside water tanks. But to really grasp the daily pulsing rhythm of Sofia, the travel guides are very clear. You have to drop down to pavement level.
Yes, down to the streets.
And in some cases, you have to drop below it.
The urban landscape at eye level and ankle level is incredibly dynamic here. The street art scene alone is staggering. The Sofia Graffiti Tour currently catalogs over 1,400 painted walls created by more than 200 different artists.
That is massive.
It is. This isn't just random tagging in alleyways. It's a highly developed, curated urban canvas that spans entire city blocks.
But the urban feature that truly fascinated me, and I had never heard of this before, is this post-1990s legacy known as squat shops.
Oh, the squat shops are so unique.
When I first read about this, I literally could not picture how it worked. These are tiny basement stores where the display window is flush with the sidewalk pavement.
Right at your feet.
Yeah. If you were walking down the street and you want to buy a soda, a pack of gum, or a beer, you have to bend down, stoop over, and make your transaction right at your shoelaces with a shopkeeper who's sitting down in a subterranean basement.
They are a brilliant, hyper-local architectural quirk. The mechanics behind them are rooted in the sudden economic shifts of the early 1990s.
Right, the transition period.
Exactly. When the centralized economy transitioned to a free market, ordinary citizens suddenly needed to open retail outlets to make a living, but they had absolutely no capital for commercial real estate.
So they used what they had.
Precisely. What they did have were the basements of their own apartment buildings. So they just opened the small ventilation windows at the top of their basements out onto the street, stocked some shelves, and started selling goods to passersby.
That is so clever.
It's the exact same resourcefulness we saw with the artists taking over the water towers, just applied to everyday commerce.
That adaptability is just amazing. And that same instinct extends to the nightlife, which sounds like an absolute labyrinth. The nightlife guides describe venues that are so intentionally hidden, they actively repel the average passerby.
They do not want foot traffic.
It honestly feels like comparing a night out in Sofia to navigating a real-life video game where you need cheat codes just to buy a drink.
The level of obscurity is intentional and heavily guarded. Take venues like Candlebar or another notorious spot called Kambara, which translates to the barn.
Right. I was reading the instructions on how to find the barn in one of the sources.
Ready?
It's ridiculous. You have to wander down a dark, unlit alleyway on Ulica 60 Septembri, bypass the normal storefronts, and look for what appears to be a decomposing, ramshackle wooden shed leaning against a brick wall.
It just looks like garbage.
Yeah, exactly. And you have to somehow possess the insider knowledge, sometimes relying on a literal photograph of the door on your phone, to know that if you push past those rotting planks, you'll walk into a vibrant, multi-level, candlelit bar.
This raises an important question, though. From a purely business perspective, why the extreme secrecy? Why hide a lucrative, popular bar behind a fake, rotting shed?
Because that's a terrible business model normally.
Exactly. But the mechanics of this secrecy lie in the historical context of the mid-20th century. During the decades of strict, centralized rule following 1944, gathering in public to discuss anything outside the state-sanctioned narrative was inherently dangerous.
So they had to go underground.
Dissenting factions, intellectuals, and artists needed safe, subterranean spaces to meet, debate, and operate away from the eyes of the authorities.
So these hidden basement spots weren't originally built to be trendy or hip. They were born out of absolute necessity and self-preservation.
The architecture of secrecy was a literal survival tactic. If your gathering space looked like a pile of discarded wood, the authorities wouldn't bother inspecting it.
That makes a lot of sense.
Today, the climate has completely changed, but the aesthetic of those hidden spaces lingered. That historical necessity evolved into a modern mock speakeasy cool.
Yeah.
The thrill of discovery, the feeling that you are part of an exclusive hidden world is now the primary draw, rather than a defense mechanism.
It's fascinating how the physical space retains that secretive energy, even when the original danger is long gone. The city keeps its secrets, and as a visitor, you have to prove you're observant enough to uncover them.
You really do.
Which, as we shift gears, is the exact opposite of how the rest of Bulgarian culture operates.
Oh, completely.
When it comes to their communal traditions, the culture is incredibly open, loud, and honestly, inescapable.
It is a striking dichotomy. We move from the survival tactic of underground secrecy to the celebratory resilience of public gathering.
Exactly. And if you're visiting Sofia and want to transition from those hidden alleys into the broad daylight of their culture, there's a real strategy to it. The travel guide suggests a specific pacing for your museums so you don't burn out.
Museum fatigue is real.
It's very real. They recommend pairing a heavy history museum with a visual art museum on the exact same day.
It prevents cognitive overload. The standard route is to start with the Regional History Museum. It gives you the entire narrative timeline of the city we've been discussing, and the building itself is a masterpiece.
It's in the old baths, right?
Yes, it's housed inside these stunning former central mineral baths, featuring these bright, vibrant ceramic mosaics. Once you've absorbed the heavy historical context, you balance it by walking over to the National Gallery to simply take in the visual art.
So you absorb the data first and the aesthetic second.
Exactly.
But if you want a truly overwhelming aesthetic experience, you have to look at the Sofia Opera and Ballet. The way this institution developed is a perfect reflection of the city's geography.
Being at that crossroads between East and West.
Right. Following Bulgaria's liberation from Ottoman rule in the late 19th century, the cultural institutions looked both west and east for inspiration. The opera house ended up blending Italian bel canto, which is this incredibly lyrical, agile style of singing focused on vocal beauty, with the heavy, dramatic, orchestral depth of the classical Russian style.
The resulting repertoire is wonderfully schizophrenic.
It really is.
Because they fuse these two incredibly demanding, distinct styles, they can execute vastly different productions. You can sit in the theater and watch them perform Wagner's heavy, epic Das Rheingold one night, and then return the next evening for a bright, energetic ballet adaptation of Zorba the Greek.
That is quite the tonal whiplash. But if you want the ultimate ground-level immersive cultural experience, you have to book a table at a traditional folklore restaurant.
Oh, the restaurants are an event.
They are. The guides point to places like Podlapite, which translates to Under the Linden Trees. It's been open since 1926 and takes the concept of farm to table so literally by sourcing the ingredients from its very own farm.
Which is amazing.
Or there's Hadzi Dragonovite Kashti, which is housed in a complex of beautifully restored 1866 Revival-era buildings.
The Revival architecture is a crucial detail there. The Bulgarian National Revival was a period of intense cultural reawakening before their liberation. It's characterized by these beautiful asymmetrical houses with overhanging upper floors, bright facades, and incredibly ornate wood carving.
So eating in these spaces is like stepping back into a very proud moment in their history.
Exactly. And you don't just go for the regional dishes, you go for the performance. Specifically, you go for the horo.
Okay, the horo. The descriptions of this dance sound simultaneously joyful and slightly terrifying.
Terrifying? How so?
Well, it's a traditional circular folk dance. Everyone in the restaurant holds hands, moving in synchronized frantic steps to these incredibly complex, uneven rhythms. It is taught in elementary schools, it is mandatory at weddings, and it is entirely inevitable if you eat at one of these restaurants.
That is very true.
So here is my practical question for you. Imagine you're a tourist. You're just trying to enjoy your shopska salad in peace, and you have absolutely zero rhythm. Can you just politely decline and sit the horo out?
You can certainly try to decline, but the guides universally agree that you will fail.
Seriously.
Seriously. The dancers at these restaurants are famously, cheerfully persistent. If you attempt to hide in the corner booth, they will seek you out.
So you are getting physically dragged into the spinning circle whether you want to or not.
Essentially, yes. But the mechanics behind that persistence are beautiful. The horo isn't a performance meant to be consumed passively while you eat. It is the ultimate expression of Bulgarian hospitality.
Because it forces everyone together.
Right. By pulling you out of your chair and physically forcing you to link hands with local residents and other visitors, the dance shatters the barrier between us and them. It forces you, even if just for a sweaty, uncoordinated 5 minutes, to become an active part of their community.
That's actually really profound.
It absolutely does not matter if you miss a step or stumble. What matters is the resilience of the circle and the fact that you are in it.
I love that. It is a city of just unbelievable contrasts. You spend your afternoon analyzing how a 16th century architect balanced a dome, your evening creeping through a dark alley looking for a hidden shed, and your night being happily dragged into a giant spinning circle of strangers.
We've traced an incredible path today. We started with the 11th century churches purposefully forced below the earth and moved up to contemporary art installations thriving in empty 1930s rooftop pools.
Right, from the bottom to the top.
We navigated the economic resourcefulness of purchasing goods at ankle level from a squat shop, explored the historical necessity behind the hush of the alleyway bars, and ended with the loud, undeniable communal joy of the horo.
It is an architectural lasagna, a deeply complex historical puzzle, and a thoroughly modern capital all at once. And that brings us to our final thought for today.
What do you have for us?
Seeing how much of Sofia's true character is found in what it hides. Churches ducking below the earth to survive, shops operating at the level of your shoes, vibrant nightlife completely concealed behind rotting wood. It makes you look at your own surroundings differently.
It really does.
Think about the street you live on. What hidden histories with forgotten architectural layers are completely obscured in your own city, just waiting for you to look a little closer.
It is a phenomenal question to keep in mind the next time you walk down a familiar street.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into Sofia. It's been an absolute pleasure having you along for the journey, and we hope you walk away seeing the world with a little more curiosity. We'll catch you next time. Goodbye.